The obvious way to build with AI right now is one agent. One very smart agent that does everything: research, strategy, copy, ad campaigns, reporting. I run a marketing agency and I went the other way. 35 agents at the moment, one human, 0 employees. And it's not because 35 sounds impressive. It's because of a piece of arithmetic that kills the one agent idea in about 10 seconds. Math first, then the architecture that survives it. Then, at the end, the honest list of what still has to be a human, because that list exists. Here's the math. Say your agent is good, 90% accurate on any single step. Feels solid. Now chain 5 steps together, which is what any real deliverable is. Research fits the strategy, strategy fits the copy, copy fits the campaign build, the build fits the report. 0.9 to the 5th is 59%. Your impressive agent just became a coin flip. That exact line, 90% per step equals 59% over 5, is written into my agency's operating file. It's not a slide, it's the reason the whole system is shaped the way it is. And compounding error is not a theory to me. 11 years at eBay and Google before that, doing analytics across 200 plus countries. My entire career was watching small errors multiply through long pipelines. Today I'm building and running AI systems full-time. This one runs a real agency with real paying clients. So everything in this video is in production, not a demo, not a concept. So the honest question, why not just make the one agent smarter? Better model, bigger context. Problem solved? No. 3 constraints, and none of them go away with a better model. Constraint 1, context. One agent doing everything means one context window carrying everything at once. Ad platform policy, brand voice, unit economics, legal claims rules, yesterday's campaign data. Long before you hit any hard limit, quality degrades. The domains start bleeding into each other, and you get ad copy that reads like a lawyer wrote it, and compliance notes that read like ad copy. Constraint 2, depth. My copywriter agent is not a prompt that says, write good copy. It carries a persona, frameworks, quality checklists, the operating knowledge of one craft, deep. Multiply that by 35 domains and it physically cannot live inside one agent at full depth. Specialization isn't decoration here. It's where the quality actually comes from. Constraint 3. And this is the one nobody talks about, QA. If one agent does everything, who checks the work? The same model that made the mistake, sitting in the same context that produced it. With separate agents, the reviewer genuinely is not the author. Okay, so 35 specialists instead of one generalist. But now you've created a new problem, and it's the actual subject of this video. Who decides which agent works on what, in what order, and when the work is good enough to pass along? That's the orchestration problem. And the answer is an architecture, not an agent. The system has 3 layers. I've walked through all 3 in detail in another video. I'll put it on screen. If you want the full architecture teardown, start there. For this video, I'm going fast on 2 of them, because the third is the whole point. Fast version. Layer 1. Directives. The standard operating procedures in plain language. That holds the judgment. When something breaks and gets fixed, the fix gets written down that day. So, the knowledge of how we do things lives in files, not in anyone's head. Fire every agent tomorrow, the knowledge survives. Layer 3. Execution. Deterministic code. Python scripts that pull the analytics, call the platforms, build the documents, idempotent secrets out of the code. Because there is one line in my operating file that runs everything. LLMs are probabilistic. Business logic is deterministic. Anything that has to be exact gets pushed down into code, out of the model's hands. And every step you move out of the model is a coin flip you just removed from the chain. That's the real way you beat the 59%, not a smarter model, fewer probabilistic steps. Those are the 2 I'm going fast on. The middle layer is the actual subject of this video. Orchestration, the conductor. This is the layer many educators skip in agent tutorials, and it's the one doing the thinking. Here's what it actually decides. Concretely, not hand-wavy. 1. Which directive applies? A task comes in, the orchestrator matches it to the SOP that governs it. No SOP, it asks. It doesn't improvise. 2. Which specialists to activate, and just as important, which ones not to. Every agent you wake up adds context, cost, and error surface. Restraint is a decision. 3. Sequence. What can run in parallel and what has dependencies? A competitor teardown and a site audit can run simultaneously. The copy cannot come before the strategy. 4. Quality gates. Is this output good enough to pass to the next step? Because remember the math. Every weak handoff compounds. 5. Errors: retry, fix, or stop and escalate to the human. There is a hard rule in the operating file. A tool fails 3 times after fixes, everything stops, and I get a report. The system is designed to fail loudly. Silent failure is the one thing it's not allowed to do. And the mechanics for the builders watching. Each specialist is defined in a file with a description of its domain, and activation is semantic. The task matches the description, the right specialist loads. When work needs to run in parallel, the same specialists spawn as sub-agents, each in its own context window, which quietly solves constraint 1 from earlier. Nobody shares a crowded room. And notice the trap the orchestrator is there to avoid, where most agent builds go wrong. They let the model freehand the things that should be code, calling an add API by hand, doing budget arithmetic in a chat window, posting on a schedule from inside a prompt. Every one of those is a 90% step that could have been 100. The orchestrator's job is to keep judgment in the agents and push everything exact down into execution. That's the discipline the whole architecture is built to enforce. Now the part I'd clip if you clip one thing. Here's the counterintuitive bit. What makes my copywriter agent a copywriter is almost none of the model. It's what gets loaded around it. The persona, the frameworks, the quality checklists, the directives it reads, the tools it's allowed to touch. The agent is the file. Swap the underlying model out and it's still the copywriter, because the craft lives in the file, not the weights. Now, I do match the model to the weight of the job, and this is where it gets interesting. Most of the work runs on one solid workhorse model. It's Opus 4.8 for me at the moment. The heaviest reasoning gets the strongest model I have, Fable 5. The light mechanical tasks get a smaller, faster, cheaper one, Sonnet 5. No reason to spend a flagship on a rename. And for the highest stakes calls, I'll run a second, different model as an adversary. It argues against the first one's answer before I trust it. So the leverage question flips. Everyone asks, which one model should I use? Wrong question. The right ones are: what does each role need to know? What is it allowed to do? And how heavy is the job? So I can spend capability where it earns its keep and save it where it doesn't. That's an org design question and a budgeting one. 11 years inside giant org charts turns out to be weirdly good preparation for both. One more consequence, and then the honest part. If the agent is the file, agents are cheap. So the discipline isn't can I add one? It's when does something deserve to be an agent at all? I have an actual rule for that, and I'm going to share it with you in one of my next videos. But I am not ending this one on the architecture, because here's what this video would be lying about if I stopped now, right where most agent videos do. Things fail, tools break mid-run, an agent drifts off its lane, an API changes under a script. The system's answer isn't perfect, it's a loop. Read the error, fix it, test it, update the directive so the same failure can't happen the same way twice. And after 3 strikes, stop, report, human. And the human list, what does not get delegated. In my system, on purpose. Nothing high stakes publishes without my sign off. And I want to be precise here, because a human approves every single thing would just be false. Agents ship plenty on their own. 1,000 keyword variations into an ad account. A polite reply in a community. The low-stakes, reversible stuff nobody needs to babysit. What they don't ship unseen is anything that can't be quietly undone. A launch, a price, a claim, a post in my voice. And to be clear, the agents still hit publish on those. Even my own posts go out through the system, but only after I've approved the draft. My eyes on it first, their hands on the button. So the gate was never draft versus publish, it's how much it costs to be wrong. Strategy calls with real money or real reputation attached, mine. Client relationships, mine. Nobody wants their business held by a persona. And this, deciding what the system itself should become, which agents exist, where the boundaries sit, what the directives say. The architecture is the job now. That's the honest trade. I stopped doing the tasks and started owning the design. So why 35 agents instead of 1? Because the question was never how smart is your agent, it's how well does your architecture contain error. One brilliant agent compounds mistakes in the dark at 59%. 35 narrow specialists under one orchestration layer on top of deterministic code contains them. If you want the buildable version of this, the architecture, the agent definitions, how the layers wire together, that's what I packaged at build-not-hire wired.com. It's the actual system written down. And I genuinely want to know this. So tell me in the comments, if you were staffing one function of your business with agents this quarter, which role would you hand over first? And which one would you never hand over? I read every comment. I'll see you in the next one.